Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, everybody. I'm back in the building. Mikey's here looking very smart today, man.
Yeah.
Love the shirt.
TV ready.
I got it on for TV. I can't lie. I didn't do this for Sunday Vibes, but maybe I should from now on. Maybe I should dress smartly.
Couple of
for Sunday
shirt boys.
Vibes.
We both on Sky today.
Yeah.
If you haven't checked these guys out on the football show already today, on going forward, make sure you do. Mikey and Doogie regularly on Sky Sports News now. But today, as you can see from the title, we are going to be looking ahead, because it is a big week in the Champions League. The Champions League returning to action on Valentine's weekend. It's a loving all round.
Oh, it is.
We're going to start by doing each game, a little run through of what to expect and give a prediction on that. And then we're going to give you our sort of big predictions. You know, your classics, the winners, the losers, the ups, the downs. Start then, shall we, in Manchester? Or not in Manchester, but for Manchester City. And their away trip to Copenhagen. Slapped up Manchester United, of course.
That was a great game.
Famously.
Yeah, although, let's
Not
have it
from my
right, United really should have got that deal wrapped up prior to the Marcus Rashford red. It was looking very, very comfortable with 11, wasn't it?
You guys played well for 20,
surely we
25 minutes.
see only comfortability here for Manchester City.
I think so. I think Copenhagen, not only the Man United result, they did great to get through that group. They held Bayern Munich away. They actually, could have beaten them at home. They went up, 1-0 up against them at home. They also beat Galatasaray, who actually, not as impressive. I wasn't particularly impressed by Galatasaray in the group stage, to be honest. But to come through that group, which was a relatively tough group, is impressive. However, they haven't played a game since December because of the Danish Superliga. It's got a very, very long break. And even before that, their domestic form actually wasn't looking so good. They're third in the league. I think they lost their last two games before the break, although those did also coincide with those big Champions League games, which they were impressive in. So perhaps they just had their minds more on the Champions League, which is fair enough. So they're in a great, they've done great to get into that position. And if they were up against a lesser team in the last 16, I would maybe give them more of a chance. But I just think Man City, they're coming into great form. Haaland's back at the perfect time. I think I think they're going to annihilate them, to be honest. Even if not away, I could see it maybe being like 2-1 to City on Tuesday or Wednesday, or whenever they're playing. But then in that return leg at the Etihad, I think they'll just absolutely wipe the floor clean.
Yeah, so do I. Bloodbath second leg for sure. I think first leg might be a little bit closer than people expect. You never know. City might rotate a little bit given the amount of Premier League fixtures they've got coming up and the nature of the title race. But they're just so used to it, man. They're just so used to that title running, rotating at the right times. I think as close as it might be in Denmark, I think in Manchester it's
the amount of times I feel like over the years that Man City, particularly in the last 16, they never really get a particularly tough draw, and I feel like one of the games ends up being like 6 or 7-0, or it's like 8-0 on aggregate or whatever. I feel like it's just a given that Man City get through this round at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. They do. There is a bit of a conspiracy about them and draws, actually, in domestic competition. They've been handed a really favourable one here. As you say, respect to Copenhagen for what they did in the group stage, but this is going to be really one-sided. I think Man City are averaging over 20 shots per game. They're only conceding 5 shots per game. They've actually, weirdly, there's a stat I saw the other day, I think there's like 8 of their last 12 goals they've conceded have been the first shot that they've conceded on target. So that's something to keep an eye on. Their actual defensive record this season in terms of clean sheets isn't very good. I think it's 3 out of their last 20 league games they've kept a clean sheet. But still, so much quality. This is going to be a bit of a whitewash, I imagine. Very comfortable.
Next up, current La Liga leaders, Real Madrid against Leipzig. Doogie, a little wry smile on your face here, because I believe this could be your shock here.
Yeah, I mean, I said it before. I think I said it on an old Team Talk episode. There's nothing like doubling down.
Man. Those Team Talks looking good now.
Those Team Talks have aged spectacularly.
Mahmoud Dahoud, Henry's great shout for flop of the season.
That was a good shout. I mean, who's got time to scour hours of that? I imagine there's some good takes in there too. But the funny ones are definitely the wrong ones. Anyway, I said in that I didn't think Real Madrid would make it past the last 16, and I think they're still favourites to make it into the quarterfinals, but I think there's a decent chance that RB Leipzig cause an upset. I don't think Real Madrid have been particularly impressive in this year's Champions League. A lot of late goals, a lot of late winners from pretty much that first game against Union Berlin, where Jude Bellingham scored a 94th minute winner. It's been that sort of story all along. A lot of comebacks, a lot of goals after the 80th minute.
This is what Madrid do.
It is what they do. It is what they do. And look, they're the 14-time champions. there's so much experience. They get over the line. It doesn't even particularly matter how well they play in ties. They just generally win them. So I might end up with egg on my face. Probably will. But at the same time, if there is a time to knock out Real Madrid, it's when they don't have Courtois available. It's when they don't have David Alaba, Eder Militao, Rudiger. Like the weekend, they were playing Nacho and Carvajal at centre-back against Atletico Madrid, and actually did pretty well for a 1-1 draw. They pretty much dominated that game, but it was just a little unfortunate at the end that they couldn't hold out. But I just think with RB Leipzig do have some good firepower this year. Openda's been superb. Benjamin Sesko causes problems whenever he plays. Xavi Simons has been excellent. After a small dip around Christmas, he's really back to his best. And Dani Olmo's back as well. So I think that there is a potential for a shock here, and I'm going to go for it. Real Madrid not to make the quarterfinals.
Love it.
Not for me,
Are Real Madrid playing at home first or away first?
I think they're away first.
They're away first. I think they're coming back to the Bernabeu. Like I see where you're coming from, Dukes. I do think.
You?
I do see. I mean, I'm not backing it. But I do.
You can
think,
see it, but you're just going to wave at that
I do
crazy
think
man.
this is probably this is potentially their biggest chance of going out at the last 16 since 2019 when they lost to
Ajax.
I think they've made it past then ever since, right? If I'm not wrong.
I think they made a semi-final in the last 3 years.
Or maybe 2019-20. Did they get knocked out? Who they got? Oh no, they didn't. I can't remember. Anyway, they're going to win. They're going to win. I think they're going to win because I think no matter what happens in Leipzig, by the time they play the second leg, which will be like early March, Vinicius will almost certainly be back fully fit because I know there's doubts over him at the moment. I back Bellingham to be in better form than he is right now. Yeah, I just
calling him out. Jude Bellingham needs to step up.
He does need to step. You were the one who was making a lot about his mini goal drought on the Snapchat we just filmed it. Well, I said that earlier. But
you said it on TV.
Yeah, then you took it to make your point in the Snapchat.
Oh.
So yeah, go and check out our Snapchat by the way if you want more Football Daily content. Yeah, I think that will win.
I just think that Madrid always grow into the competition, and I don't think it's as if Leipzig are flying. Like they've been stuttering, haven't they, domestically? I think is it 3 losses in their last 4 games. They held 5 against Stuttgart, was it?
Stuttgart are a good side this year, but yeah,
they are. But like I think Madrid's firepower, even with the amount of injuries they've got in that back line, should be enough to get them over the line here. I kind of agree. I think in Germany, I think it might be quite tight, but I think in the Bernabeu, I just think they'll have too much.
Yeah. Leipzig beat them at home last time in the group stage. I think last year in the groups they were in the same, but the home team won in both games.
Wouldn't be a massive surprise in Germany just because of how Leipzig want to play, especially with the counter-attacking system and players like Openda who can cause problems with their pace. But I just think that this is just a classic Madrid, man.
Boring.
Slowly, but grow into it.
But I mean, but to be fair, Madrid's back line, I think. If they can't isolate Openda, then they will face problems for sure because that back line isn't the quickest. So yeah, I can see both legs being close, to be honest. But yeah, Real Madrid will get over the line.
Okay, next one, PSG versus Sociedad.
Do you want to kick off, Mikey?
Yeah, because you're going to go for another upset, aren't you, Duke? Because I can tell.
I am.
Are you? Okay,
yeah.
I'm going to go PSG here. I think I'm going to go PSG here. I just think they're a much stronger team than I know. Sociedad had a great group stage, but they've been pretty poor in the league. I think they've won once since December.
A lot of draws
in the league. A lot of draws. And they will be super up for this. But I just think they also play at home second, right? Because they won the group. But I'm going to be really boring. I just think all this chat about Mbappe, supposedly leaving at the moment. I can see it's not affected his form. I can see him I can just see him bossing this, like coming up clutch. I think we're overdue seeing Ousmane Dembele make a real difference in a Champions League knockout game. I think he's been.
Will we ever see that, man?
Sorry. Well, he has, like, in terms of his actual creative numbers this year, he has been pretty outrageous, but his end product just hasn't been so good. In terms of shooting, at least, like his chance creation has been great. I just think PSG are really strong, and Luis Enrique is a good tournament manager. Like I can see him managing this tie. I know you're always backing PSG to go out.
I'm always anti PSG, aren't I? As everybody knows, and I think we'll come on to flops later in the show, but obviously I put them down as my flops pre-tournament in that Team Talk episode. Probably going to stick with it. I can see Sociedad causing an upset here. I really can. I think the back line is very, very solid still. They've only lost 4 games domestically in Spain all season, and I think there's a reason for that. The back line, I think it's conceded 21 goals. It's 9 less than Barca. It's 5 less than Atletico Madrid in La Liga. They're no mugs at the back. They've got a very, very sound structure. They build up really nicely. And PSG just have mind farts in them, man. We saw it going away to St James's Park when, they got slapped up for 4 there. San Siro as well. Yeah, at home against Newcastle. Maybe slightly lucky to get out of that with the result they did as well, given the last-minute handball that was frankly never a handball, even though across the 90 minutes they created lots of chances, they just couldn't finish them off. I would not be totally surprised to see something like that happen again. I don't know what it is about PSG in the Champions League, but it feels like every single season there is something made of, this could be their year. Mbappe's in good form, they finally found a manager that's working with a system and a structure, and then they just shit the bed. It wouldn't. I think if there is going to be a shock in this round of 16, it will be PSG.
Interesting.
You backing that as well?
Before a ball was kicked, I think I had PSG as my dark horses, which felt like a bit of a cheat, because can they ever really be a dark horse, given their investment in their side? But I mean, Real Sociedad are one of my favourite teams as well. And I actually massive respect to them, because 10 years ago, they haven't been in the Champions League for 10 years, and the last time they were in, they only got 1 point. That was in the group where Man United topped it all that time ago. First year post-Fergie, I think. But to top a group with Benfica, Inter Milan, RB Salzburg, and do it fairly easily as well, I thought was super, super impressive. Kubo can cause any team issues. Oyarzabal's looking like he's slightly back in form as well. Baranachea, Mikel Merino in midfield controlling things. They do have a really, really nice side. I think this time might go to extra time.
Ooh.
And then I might go PSG just with that extra firepower from the bench.
That is the one thing, isn't it? The firepower.
The firepower on the bench really does sway it for me. So, yeah, I'm going to go PSG just.
Yeah, I think if you look at those Sociedad losses, those 4 losses in La Liga and domestically this season, I think it is against the teams with higher caliber firepower. Your Madrid's, Barcelona. I think Atletico beat them as well, didn't they? So it's going to be tough, but you never know. Lazio, Bayern.
Very one-sided this.
Yeah,
it's gone under the radar because Napoli have been so bad in Serie A, just how terrible Lazio have been. Second last year, which everyone seems to forget, was actually a really good year for Sarri. But just been shocking.
It's a war zone as well, isn't it? How many times are we going to see Sarri quotes saying, if the players want it, I'll give it to them. If they go to the president, let's
Everyone's
have it out.
You want it?
Oh
he wants some. Sarri's arguing with the recruitment team, the owners aren't happy. It's just been a real mess of a season. Both Rome clubs, to be honest, have been really under par this year, although Daniele De Rossi's doing a pretty good... Well, he started well at Roma. I don't want to go too far. Very easy opposition as well. But Lazio, Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, haven't replaced him at all. The players that they brought in the summer, no one's really got going. I think only Guendouzi's in their top 8 most used players in the league. I thought Daichi Kama would be a really smart pickup. He's barely been used. Isaacson as well, barely been used as well. None of the signings have really come off. It's been a pretty miserable season. No one's scoring any goals as well. I think their top scorer in the league is Ciro Immobile on 5. He's the only player with more than 3. It's a pretty miserable season. Bayern will absolutely steamroller them. Like we said in one of the Man City ties, I genuinely think one of the legs will be 5-0.
Yeah. Okay, we'll agree with that. PSV versus Dortmund. This is an interesting one, isn't it?
I think this might be the best tie of the whole round, to be honest.
Wow.
I just think they're the most evenly matched out of all these teams. In terms of kind of spending power, in terms of, I know Dortmund is still the bigger club, but I think there's a few, the one thing is that it's Peter Bosz going back to Dortmund, where he had that very ill-fated spell in 2017, given the task of, replacing Thomas Tuchel, who had replaced Jurgen Klopp. Was given a pretty, a pretty difficult task there, despite him having, so kind of sown the seeds of Erik ten Hag's Ajax side this season before.
Is it really Peter Bosz? Pulling the strings, man. Given what he's decimated Eredivisie this season, never know.
Exactly. But his PSV side is kind of gone under the radar a little bit, just how dominant PSV have been this season. In terms of, I think because might
reflect on the standard of the Eredivisie this year as well.
For sure.
And the standard of Ajax.
For sure. Ajax, Ajax held them to a draw on the weekend as well, and PSV had won every single game in the Eredivisie up until 3 weeks ago. They've drawn 2 of their last 3 now. So before that, there was a lot of chat about, Leverkusen being the only unbeaten side in Europe's top 5 leagues. All that time, PSV were just winning every single game. But I mean, Peter Bosz has worked wonders there. Luke De Jong is on 26 goals in all comps this term.
With 10 assists as well.
What a striker this guy is. He's batting back on form. But I'm actually, we'll get onto them. But yeah, I'm going to back PSV. I'm going to back PSV.
Wow, so knock out Dortmund. This would be a surprise result, I think.
It would be a bit of a surprise result. I think it would be a surprise.
The general view.
But I just think, and I think Dortmund are, probably, all in all, a stronger side. But I just think the momentum. Well, I say the momentum. They're actually in their worst form of the season at the moment. But I just think, in general, this season PSV have been, super, super dominant. Dortmund have. I think Dortmund are the 5th or 6th best team in Germany this year. I know they're above Leipzig in the table, but when you actually look at their performances over the course of the year, I think Leipzig are clearly a better side than Dortmund. PSV are a winning machine. So I back them to do it.
Fair. Momentum definitely with PSV.
They are going to be at the Westfalenstadion second leg.
I do think Dortmund credit where it's due for topping that group of death as well. They have. Their best performances this season have arguably come in the Champions League, and the January signings, Jadon Sancho's made a big difference. I think Ian Matson's been really good as a left back as well. But having said that, I watched them against Heidenheim on Friday. I was actually dual screening it with France Ireland on the TV as well. Anyway, they were shooting themselves in the foot, left, right, centre. Heidenheim could have easily come away with a win there, and that's what Dortmund do. They just lose focus at crucial moments and concede very, very sloppy chances. And I think PSV had the know-how to take advantage of that. I think Bakayoko on the right-hand side, Luke de Jong down the middle. Do not sleep on PSV, but at the same time, I just think Dortmund get over the line. I just think Dortmund sneak it, maybe by a goal in this time.
Yeah, I'm going to come down on the side of Dortmund as well. As good as PSV look, domestically in particular, I think there is just such a disparity at the moment between the quality of opposition in the Eredivisie and the quality of opposition they'll face in Europe. I think it is the weakest we've seen the Eredivisie in a decade, maybe. It's a long way off. It's a long way off the standard of when we were seeing Dutch teams actually compete recently under Erik ten Hag, the likes of when Ajax were slapping up Real Madrid in the Bernabeu. The Eredivisie is not as competitive as that anymore, and I do think that kind of offsets the view of how good PSV have been a little bit this season. So when they come up to face a better standard of opposition, are they going to be a little bit shocked? I think they might be. I'm going to go Dortmund as well. Last tie, I think one of the most interesting ties, maybe the best tie, Atletico Madrid versus Inter Milan.
Huge. Absolutely huge.
This actually might be the more even one.
I think this is the one I'm almost looking forward to most, because Atletico Madrid are so unlike Atletico Madrid of old these days. Their standard of centre-back, I think, is really, really poor, but they've got a number of really entertaining forwards. Their wingers, if Marcus Llorente plays out there, if Samuel Lino plays out there, they've got 2 of the 3 top goal scorers in the competition this year in Morata and Griezmann. Depay's now really starting to come into form. They didn't end up selling Angel Correa. Atletico Madrid are a lot of fun these days. Be interesting to see whether Vermeeren can transfer that form that he had at Antwerp, where he played really well in the Champions League as well. They've still got Koke, who's provided an amazing assist a couple of weeks ago as well. Rodrigo de Paul. I think they've got options. Having said that, Inter Milan, I think, are one of the best sides in Europe at the moment, to be honest. It was only 1-0 against Juventus at the weekend, but it was so one-sided. If it wasn't for Szczesny playing out of his skin, completely different. And I think in terms of XG goal difference, only Bayern are better than Inter Milan this year. And instead of points won per game, it's only Leverkusen. So Inter are having a quietly excellent season, and I think they can go deep once again. I actually think they'll win this tie. I think, but it'll be really entertaining. I've said that with a lot of certainty behind it. I'm not totally convinced, but I think Inter Milan will win.
Yeah, I think so. Atleti do have pedigree in this tournament for sure, but they haven't really. I can't remember the last time I really saw them put someone to the sword in the Champions League, and I agree. They are, over the last 12 months in particular, they have become a more entertaining side. Griezmann is obviously still at the top of his game. But
yeah,
I just think Inter are not only are they one of the best sides in Europe, they're one of the most entertaining sides. I think they arguably have been more entertaining this season than any side in the Premier League. You compare them to Leverkusen, their style of play is just a joy to watch. Someone like Hakan Çalhanoğlu has just gone to a new level this term. Someone like Henrik Mkhitaryan he's putting up 4 tackles and interceptions in midfield per game. Lautaro Martinez is obviously on fire. Marcus Thuram has done a great job kind of being his kind of support striker, and I think he's got 8 in the league as well, hasn't he?
They know that system inside out as well.
Yeah, they're so good.
Great in knockouts, aren't they?
In possession, they're great, and the icing
really
on the cake is the fact that they've got one of the best tournament managers in club football with Simone Inzaghi. I kind of think that semi-final against Milan last year is a really good kind of barometer of what kind of team you're up against. They went up against Milan in a semi-final, and they just didn't let the occasion get to them whatsoever. They just went and got the job done so easily against them. And yes, they do have a stronger squad than Milan, but they could have easily let the occasion get to them in that sense. So I think they're gonna. I think Inter will actually. I wouldn't say that they're not going to absolutely annihilate Atleti, but I think they will comfortably win this time.
Yeah, I think not enough has been made of Lautaro Martinez, man, in terms of being one of the best strikers in world football again this season. He is kind of this figure of fun amongst some sects of the football fan base, especially online, I think, where, he's missed high-profile chances in the past, particularly in high-profile games for Argentina, and that has kind of somehow diluted his quality amongst fans, and I think it's just wrong at this stage. We see him pretty much every week be the best striker in Italy. I think he could comfortably do it at a top Premier League side, one of the better sides in Spain, at Barcelona or Real Madrid. I think he would look great at as well. I think he's still only 26, isn't he? Really surprised Inter Milan have been able to keep hold of him, frankly, given that they are in a financial black hole and still falling at the moment. So not enough is made of his quality in front of goal. I think he could be a difference maker in this side. And then you touched on Çalhanoğlu there, but we saw the quotes, I don't know whether you guys did at home, from Çalhanoğlu calling himself, I think, either the best midfielder in world football or one of the best midfielders in world football very recently. And I think it's fairly hard to argue with certainly the case of him being the best midfielder in Italy and in the conversation across Europe right now. The pass at the weekend against... Just it's actually sickening. It's one of the best balls I've seen delivered this season. He's a game controller. I think it speaks volumes, the fact that, we're going to see Zielinski go there in the summer, definitely from Napoli, given that he's been left out of the European squad. And, where does he get into that Inter Milan midfield? I don't think it's a guarantee he gets close. So, that's how good Çalhanoğlu's been and continues to be. So, I think Inter Milan, despite the fact Atletico on paper have the likes of Griezmann, Morata, Koke, I just think there's silent stars in that Inter Milan side that could.
We haven't even talked about the fullbacks
DiMarco,
better standard of defender as wing backs and central defenders as well. Bastoni, Acerbi, Pavard, that's excellent. And Jan Sommer in goals.
Pavard was great against Juve.
Sommer's been great. Who cares about Skriniar at this point? It hasn't not made.
That's the thing, though. They lost Onana, they lost Brozovic, they lost Skriniar, they lost Lukaku, and I think they're a better team than they were last year. It's really impressive.
Yeah, Thuram, just such a pickup for a free, man.
Ridiculous.
Everyone was sleeping on that.
Lautaro, it's just crazy. Right, let's go through some categories then, because we've gone through this week's round.
I think there's a couple more.
FC Porto and Arsenal.
Of course. And I've gone early here. I've gone well early.
And Napoli, Barca. Let's just quickly talk about FC Porto, Arsenal. I think...
Let's spend some time on these, man. Let's spend some time on Arsenal. I think they could go very deep, Arsenal.
Yeah. I think they could as well. They've, I think, got quite fortunate with the draw as well. I don't think FC Porto are the same as they've been in the previous few years in the Champions League, beaten by Barcelona in both their games. They actually did end up tying on points, but Barcelona, got through on, games won, I suppose, against Porto on head-to-head. Porto... Mehdi Taremi's not been as good as he was last year. He's normally their Champions League difference maker. It's really been Evan Nilsson. Is their key man. Sergio Conceição's sides, they never give up. They work really hard. They're quite a pain to play against. They're quite ratty in your face. There'll be tackles flying in. So if Arsenal keep their heads, I think it should be quite controlled and quite comfortable. So I'm going to go maybe 3-1 across the two legs.
Yeah,
it would be
quite tight. Yeah,
I think that's kind, man. I think Arsenal will absolutely blow Porto away at home, like comfortably. I think, as we've seen throughout the Premier League this season, if they can start taking chances, I think it could be a bloodbath at the Emirates.
They've been much more clinical in the Champions League.
I really think it could be a bloodbath at the Emirates. Yeah, Gabriel Jesus looks way more clinical in the Champions League.
He got like 4 goals?
4 goals and 2 assists.
And I just still think that Arsenal, like, even in the conversations of like league titles at the weekend, when people were saying like, oh, you know, I still think Liverpool and City are substantially I just don't see it, man. Like, I think Arsenal play as good, if not better, football than some of these teams, like certainly than nearly every team in Europe. And I think that if they can keep players fit, like a Saliba injury is a hammer blow. I think for me, a Saka injury is a hammer blow. But
Rice.
I think if they can keep players fit, then they stand a great chance of getting to like a semi-final here.
Yeah.
I think if they come up against Man City in a couple of rounds, or if they come up against a Madrid or a Bayern, I don't see them winning. But I think it's everybody else. I think, you know,
they'd be great ties against Real Madrid and Man City.
I think I'd back them against. I think I'd back them against Real Madrid. I think I'd give them a really good shot against Man City, actually, across 2 legs. They beat them at the Emirates this year. You know, a game that they managed really, really well. I would worry against Bayern. I think I would worry against Bayern. Like, Harry Kane would be so up for that game. But I would back them against most teams left in the competition. And they are coming into form at the right time. Like, there's no doubt about it. That performance against Liverpool was their performance of the season. If they can use that to like really kick on, and they, you know, start putting away their chances with more efficiency, then I think semi-finals is a realistic aim, I think, for them. Like, they are one of the 4 or 5 best teams in Europe. And of course, like, you know, a team like Liverpool are not in this year's competition. So like, it's really them, City, Bayern, Inter and Real for me who are the real contenders for this year's competition. And Real, I'm not so sure about getting through the quarters, to be honest.
Yeah, I think Porto are going to get blown away either way. Dukes?
What, the final one?
Yep, final game.
Napoli versus Barcelona. I'd love to see this tie a few years ago. This would have been an epic tie. Sarri's Napoli,
Just a miserable tie.
Valverde's Barcelona. Yeah, both sides in really bad shape at the moment. Although, having said that, Barcelona played a lot better at the weekend. But still, yeah, Napoli have been really a bit of a joke under Walter Mazzarri, to be totally honest. They've completely fallen away. They're having a shocking season. We talked about Lazio's infighting. Same thing at Napoli. I actually heard the other day that Napoli, De Laurentiis doesn't want Mazzarri to do press conferences anymore because he thinks he gives away too much stuff tactically. They also left him at the game a few weeks ago, as I was talking about on last week's Sunday Vibes. Yeah, it's been a bit of a joke. Although Kvaratskhelia did come back at the weekend and score an absolutely stunning goal against Hellas Verona. Barcelona, I've got a sneaky feeling that Barcelona will go deeper in this year's competition than people think. I think they win this tie, and then I think they do have a slight fear factor to them in a slight way. Like, I do think there's an option in there that Lamine Yamal creates a few moments of magic. Pedri's now back and looked really good at the weekend. They've got Gundogan, they've got Lewandowski. Like, there are match winners in that squad. I think Barcelona, I wouldn't want to draw them. I just wouldn't want to draw them, to be totally honest. But I think they get through this tie.
I guess
I would want to draw them. I would definitely be very keen to draw Barcelona. I think even though their best players are the likes of Pedri, Lamine Yamal, I think asking 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds to bail you out of big moments, big games, I think is always going to be a stretch. And I think a couple of injuries, you know, as we saw last year at Old Trafford, just a couple of injuries to that team, and it's just kind of decimated, falls apart a little bit, doesn't it?
Defensively,
I'm very,
they've been much more porous this year as well, haven't they? I think that's the key. Like, I just think defensively, Barcelona are not at the level they were this time last year.
Christensen going to play DM again for the rest of the season now?
Outside bet for a semi-final. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I actually think Napoli might beat them. I like, even though Napoli are in a mess, I just feel like, I don't know. I just feel like it's the sort of thing that Napoli could pull out the bag. Osimhen will be back from AFCON, especially at least
he will have won the thing.
Well, yeah. Well, maybe African champion Osimhen there. Yeah, and I just feel like this is one where there's not really much evidence to back it up. I just think the stars might align for Napoli on this one.
The one thing I'd say
and Barcelona are like, the timing of the Xavi announcement. I know they've won their last 2 games, but I don't know, man. I just Barcelona are becoming one of those sides that in Europe, for me, like I'm just so used to seeing them crumble in the last few years, and yeah, I could see it happening in this game.
Fair. Napoli have a terrible Champions League record.
They do.
They've only ever made one
And they've
quarter-final in
been
their
crap this
entire
season,
history.
haven't
I think
And they were
Barcelona win. I think
disappointing
Barcelona win.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to our big predictions then. Winners.
I think we've all probably...
Have we all put Bayern?
I put Bayern.
I put Bayern.
I put Bayern
Have
at
you?
the start of the year. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Well,
no, I
I'm
don't
just
believe in Bayern at all.
I'm just going on what we did in our 2024 predictions because it was only a month ago.
Yeah,
so
I think
may as
I
well
said
stick by
Man
it.
City. I'm going to stick with Man City.
I'm sticking
Yeah.
with Bayern. I think with
I've gone
Bayern is, yes, they're pretty, well, I say threadbare, like they're managing fine without key players. Are they playing Leverkusen today, or will they have played them?
They'll
by
have
this
played them
point?
yesterday.
They'll have played them
Saturday,
yesterday.
5:30.
So who knows? Who knows what the Bundesliga title race looks like right now? They could have lost to Leverkusen. They might have beaten them, but nevertheless, I think Bayern easily get through the last 16, and then by the quarter-final stage, they will have Serge Gnabry back. They will have Konrad Lima back. They'll have Alphonso Davies back.
Kingsley Coman, maybe a
Kingsley
bit longer, actually.
Coman might need a little bit longer. Manuel Neuer will be back. Brian Zaragoza might be in the team. One of the best midfielders in Spain this season, who they've managed to get through the door 6 months earlier than they initially
More of
planned
like
to.
a winger, but yeah.
A bit more of a winger. But who else is coming back? Yeah, so a lot of key men will be back by that point. If Kane carries on his current scoring form, I just think Bayern are. Yeah, obviously Man City, but I just don't. I also just don't like to back a team to win it a second time in a row. I think it's just, only Real Madrid have done it in the Champions League. It just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah, same.
And I
agree.
just really like this Bayern team. I think we're yet to actually see this Bayern team hit their best form, and I feel like once they have that fully fit squad, with a Champions League winner Tuchel at the helm, I think they're going to be really, really hard to beat.
I think that's a big factor. I know that they crashed out in very humiliating circumstances in the Pokal this year, but I really think Tuchel is an excellent knockout manager, as we saw proven at Chelsea, where he continuously reached, I think he might have reached every cup final available bar one in his time at Chelsea. And then
everyone.
Yeah, it might have been everyone. Chelsea fans will be able to correct me on that. But I think he is a high caliber knockout manager. I think when the games get tough, he knows exactly how to set up his side tactically so they don't lose games, particularly away from home. And I think they've got the difference maker. I think they've got the best player in Europe this season, and that's Harry Kane. I know that Bellingham has been fantastic, but the goal scoring output and the quality of Harry Kane this season, I think it's probably taken people in Germany a little bit by surprise just how good he actually is. Like, we were obviously saying it in England, but I think there was still a bit of a sense of
Premier League bias.
Is he actually that good? What you see him in Germany with drops deep, and he's able to play people like Musiala and Leroy Sané in behind. His physicality on the ball, holding the ball up, and also just this insane finishing ability that is kind of getting better and better the older he gets. I can't remember who it was speaking midweek, but it was like a German legend talking about the angle of his foot, how goalkeepers in the Bundesliga, he's never seen a striker be able to finish like Harry Kane in his entire lifetime. I think it was Miroslav Klose actually, and he was saying he's the best finisher he's ever seen in Germany, Harry Kane, because his foot angle, no matter what type of strike it is, it can go in any of the corners. He was like, it's a very interesting article actually, and I think Harry Kane, for me, will be the difference maker for Bayern Munich in the Champions League. I think he can just dig them out of positions.
The Kane factor's big. The Tuchel's factor's big. I just think there's...
But will the Kane curse?
And they did. They did win a Champions League in 2020. I just think there's been a lot of pain in this competition since. There's like a lot of battle scars in there, like Kimmich, Goretzka, Sané, Neuer to a certain extent as well. Like, they've all been in part of like really big humiliations. Like, they're absolutely thrashed by City last year. They've lost to Villarreal in recent seasons. Like, they just haven't been particularly.
You haven't had Harry Kane for any of that
in the knockouts. They haven't been. Yeah, as I say, the Kane factor is big. Sané's on better form than he's ever been.
Musiala's better than he's ever been.
Yeah, debatable on that one. But I mean, he was very good last year as well, is my point. But yeah, I can't see them winning it personally at the moment. But
is that just because you can't see them beating City?
I don't know whether I'd even make them necessarily favourites against Real Madrid, to be totally honest.
Really?
Having said that,
I did
back
Real Madrid to go out anyway, so it doesn't matter. They're not going to face it.
I think I think they probably are the second best team. I think Inter Milan have a decent chance against them as well. I'm not 100% convinced by that.
Inter Bayern would be an amazing
There are problems in
tie.
the team. There certainly are problems in the team. I mean, when you're having to start Eric Dyer at centre half, I think you're admitting that you have.
I say that, but then I'm backing City, and there's Man City haven't played. They played well in the Champions League, but they haven't played close to their best this year.
This is what happens every year.
I know,
City take a little bit of time to get going. Second half of the season, they are a runaway train.
Are we using different standards to judge them? Like, have Bayern been at their best this year? No. Although I don't think they've been that far off. Actually, in terms of their points tally, I said it on Sky earlier, their points tally at the moment they're on track for is their best since their final year of Pep. So they haven't even been a disaster in the league. They've just come up against a freakishly good Leverkusen side, hopefully, who beat them yesterday. As you watch this, it'd be great for the league. But yeah, we'll see. I just don't have Bayern down at the moment, but I could end up looking like an idiot.
So you have City, presumably?
I have City, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, we done with that one? Yeah, Bayern.
Bayern and City. Dark horses, I've got Arsenal.
That's pretty strong. I quite like that shout, actually. I wish I'd gone for it, because I was looking through all the teams. I was like, are there any actual dark horses in here? I feel like Arsenal can't, because they haven't been in the competition for so long, but they are genuine contenders.
And have never won it.
They've never won it.
Kind of counts in their favour in terms of dark horse
having
factor.
backed them to beat Real Madrid, I've probably got to go RB Leipzig, haven't I?
Yeah, it's a good shout. I've gone for PSV, who maybe I'll come to regret that, because but I don't know. I think
Top
you
scorers?
Never know. Top
scorer is boring.
Yeah,
it probably will be Haaland.
I've gone
Kane. Really?
I'm actually going to put a sneaky shout out there for Gabriel Jesus.
Really?
Yeah.
If he knocks up 3 in the last 16 against Porto, he'll be on
Porto.
7.
Yeah.
It's quite, it might not be necessarily. Haaland might be rested or miss some games with a knock or something. I think there's a chance that someone like Gabriel Jesus ends up as top scorer.
I don't think Haaland gets rested now. He's just come back from injury. This is the thing. I think Kane. So my prediction: Bayern Munich going to win. Kane's going to be massively influential in that. I think Kane will probably score 2 or 3 penalties on that run as well, and will be a big difference maker for Bayern. But even if City get knocked out, even if City don't make the final, I just think that Erling Haaland, he could score 5 across. He could score 6 across 2 legs against Copenhagen. Genuinely, he could score 4 in one game and score a brace in the other, and then that will just win it for him, basically. And he'll only have to score 1 or 2 more in the rest of the competition.
So how many did he put past? Was it Leipzig last year?
Leipzig, I think he got 5 in one game.
Yeah. So what? Just from Erling Haaland? Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, it was. They won 7-0, didn't they?
So I just back Haaland to do something like that. He's the one striker who really is capable of just doing that randomly in a game. And with KDB, in the kind of form that he's in, Phil Foden, the kind of form he's in, he's just got so much. He's got so much service there, and I think Haaland could actually seal it in this round. Yeah.
I'm actually backing Rasmus Højlund. He's going to end as joint top scorer. No one's going to score another goal.
I don't think he is joint top scorer.
He is at the moment.
He's still.
Yeah,
it's Morata, Griezmann, Haaland, and Højlund.
Love it, Rasmus.
Højlund. Europa. No, he's not in the Europa League.
Are we doing shock result, or have we already kind of covered that?
We've kind of covered that, maybe.
Yeah, I said Napoli.
Leipzig.
I said Napoli to beat Barca.
I said Sociedad to beat PSG. Surprise starter then. I've gone for Rico Lewis.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Started 5 of City's 6 Champions League games this season. So I think, although he hasn't been utilised massively in the Premier League, I think in Europe he's actually been much more trusted. And I think that partly comes down to the fact that they're maybe a little bit more comfortable in Europe with some of the sides they were facing in the group. We saw a lot of rotation, particularly in the last game, the likes of Oscar Bob coming in and having an effect. But I think Rico Lewis is trusted much more in Europe than he is in the Premier League. And I don't know if that's maybe because of his physicality a little bit. I think it's a less physical game, the Champions League. Some of the sides you're coming up against on the continent aren't Everton away and gonna just try and batter you and bruise you. And I think we've heard Pep Guardiola talk about Rico Lewis's size and stature before, haven't we? I think he said if he was 2 or 3 inches taller, we'd be talking about one of the best players in Europe or something.
Poor guy.
Which
can't do much about that.
I know he can't do much about it, but I think he is one of he's probably the outstanding Premier League teenager. You think Garnacho is 19, Kobe Mainu 18. I think Rico Lewis, given he's 19 and has played 20 games across all competitions for City this year, you have to say it's Rico Lewis. I think 5 starts in 6 games, if he continues to start European games and have as big an effect as he's able to have, I think he will be the surprise star, because I just don't think people look at him as a player that gets in the Man City first team.
Yeah.
And he is in Europe. He's one of the go-to guys, judging by 5 starts in 6 games.
I wonder whether that's also due to the fact that John Stones hasn't been able to play that many games at all in the Champions League, I don't think. And Rico Lewis can do that inverted full-back central midfield role, which kind of Pep sort of settled on in the Champions League last year to full effect. Obviously, they went on and won it. So Rico Lewis being able to do that role, I think you might be right, Joe. I think it's a good shout.
Yeah, I like that. I was kind of searching for an underrated star in a kind of City or a Bayern. Didn't quite find it. We've spoken about him already. I went for Hakan Çalhanoğlu. I know he has been well rated this season and is, maybe Inter's key man. But I just see him controlling a number of games here. I think I'm kind of backing Inter if they don't get a horrible quarter-final draw to make it to the semis. I can see him controlling the tie against Atleti. If they don't come up against a City or a Bayern in the quarterfinals, I can see him controlling those games as well. Like, I think even if Inter were to come up against Real Madrid, I would just about back Inter. So
in that midfield battle, you think the Inter Milan midfield, Çalhanoğlu? I think Çalhanoğlu does look exceptional in Italy, particularly because there's a little bit more time, a little bit more space, and a little bit more freedom. We know what his passing range is like, and his passing calibre is like. It's out of this world. But I think when you're up against Bellingham harassing you, Tchouaméni harassing you, Camavinga harassing you, Modric, I think that is where he might struggle a little bit.
Maybe, but I think we may underestimate him. I think we may be underestimating him there. Like that Inter midfield, it's not just Çalhanoğlu on those guys. You've got a really hard-working midfield around him as well. Like they'll be having to deal with Nicolo Barella making those runs.
Did well against City last year.
He's I think Çalhanoğlu has really grown as a player. So I think
he's amazing.
I kind of have him down, and also maybe I was kind of looking through that Inter side. Like Jan Sommer as well, 14 clean sheets this year already. Like shot stopping wise, he's just absolutely excellent. I know he had that stinker. Who was it against in the Champions League last year with him and Upamecano? It was against City. It was against City. Yeah. Like Jan, like a lot was made about Upamecano in that game, but Jan Sommer was at least as bad.
His kicking was dreadful.
It was really on the ball. He was awful, but shot stopping wise, I think Jan Sommer could have a part to play as well.
Nice.
So,
I went with the guy I've already mentioned, Johan Bakayoko, right winger from PSV. I think he might have a really good tie against Dortmund. He's already being talked about along with sort of Nico Williams as that sort of like next star in terms of wing talent. I think he's got 4 goals and 8 assists in the Eredivisie. Hasn't necessarily set the Champions League alight just yet, but I think he could have a big tie against Dortmund with Ian Maatsen covering at left back. Bensebaini might come back in as well after AFCON as well, but I think he's got an opportunity to cause some damage to Dortmund.
I was also going to say Brahim.
Yeah,
was another contender for me. Yeah, scored at the weekend. I think with the injury problems that Real Madrid side have suffered in forward areas at times this season to the likes of Vinicius, I don't think it's impossible that you'll see Brahim get a fair few minutes, as we've seen in La Liga. And I think his performances in La Liga have kind of warranted that. Like, he's looked pretty exceptional whenever he's played. He's certainly surprised me. I didn't think, we would be seeing this from Brahim, given how his time at AC Milan went, which was, pretty
inconsistent.
Pretty like low level compared to what we thought he could be originally, and now he's back at Madrid. I think he's surprising a few people. So if there are injuries in that front line, I think Brahim will get minutes, and I think Real Madrid will grow into that second half of the campaign, and he could be a little bit of a shock off the bench, at least, maybe starting a few games. Very quick. Flops, I'm going PSG.
I'm actually going Real Madrid, despite backing them to get through this round. I just think
Join me.
You think Inter are going to roll them?
I just think I think Real will get through this round, and I can really see them going out in the quarters. I can see them getting drawn against one of the big boys, and I just don't back them in the way that I would have a couple of years ago. I just don't back them across 2 legs in the way I would have.
It's that midfield, man. I just struggle to look past that midfield, and like I just think it's so good. I think it's so good, and I've seen Bellingham single-handedly, even in Europe. Like I think to Borussia Dortmund against Manchester City a couple of years ago, like the performance level of him grabbing games and just going, nah, I'm going to win this game, or like I'm going to drag us through this game. And even though they went out to Man City, it's kind of like, Jesus, like his level is so, his competitive level is so high. Like the midfield to me is just too good to crash out early.
Yeah. But you're right. It's not just his ability. It's almost like his force of personality. He kind of wills games to his way.
But if Vinicius is, if he doesn't come back as well as...
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, Real Madrid, I've already talked about Real Madrid. In terms of expectations against the Champions League as a whole, I'll go with Bayern as my flops, as in not making a final. I think most people would probably consider that a flop.
Yeah. I mean, you'd say that the same about Real Madrid.
Fine.
As well?
Maybe I'll put it out there. Bayern don't make a semi.
Okay.
Bayern don't make a semi. All right, any other predictions we want to do?
What about yourself? You said PSG already, haven't you?
PSG, obviously, yeah. Always put PSG forward to my biggest bottlers, biggest flops in European football. Title, hammer them if I can. All right, there we go. That was today's episode of Sunday Vibes. Let us know your predictions in the comments below. Of course, keep your eye out for big weekend of Premier League football as well. Thanks very much for watching, everybody. We'll see you later. Goodbye.